Another important concept of functional English, that is essay writing and report writing. To make the learners understand the topic scrupulously, we will discuss the meaning, importance, types and rules of essay writing and report writing comprehensively. I am Sakshi Mandwal and our subject expert for today's episode is Ms. Sabat Tariq, lecturer for English at the University of Jizan, Saudi Arabia. After watching this episode, the student will be able to understand accurate meaning and importance of essay and report writing, understand the important rules of essay and report writing, learn the essentials and steps of writing good essays and reports, and will expand and improve the skills of writing English correctly. Now, let's start with the question, what is an essay? An essay has been defined in a variety of ways. One definition of essay is that it is a prose composition with a focused subject of discussion or a long systematic discourse. It is difficult to define the genre in which essay falls. A leading essayist gives guidance on the subject. He notes that the essay is a literary device for saying almost everything about almost anything, and adds that by tradition, almost by definition, the essay is a short piece. An essay is generally a scholarly piece of writing that gives the author's own argument, but the definitions about the essays are generally vague, overlapping with those of an article, a pamphlet, and a short story. The word essay derives from the French infinitive essayer, to try or to attempt. In English, essay first meant a trial or an attempt, and this is still an alternative meaning. The Frenchman Michel de Montaigne, 1533 to 1592, was the first author to describe his work as essays. He used this term to characterize these as attempts to put his thoughts into writing, and his essays grew out of his commonplacing. Inspired in particular by the works of Plutarch, a translation of whose Ouvres Morales, moral works, into French had just been published by Jacques Amiot, Montaigne began to compose his essays in 1572. The first edition, entitled Essays, was published in 2 volumes in 1580. For the rest of his life, he continued revising previously published essays and composing new ones. Francis Bacon's essays, published in book form in 1597, 1612 and 1625, were the first works in English that described themselves as essays. Ben Jonson first used the word essayist in English in 1609, according to the Oxford English Dictionary. Now, what does an essay consist of? Essays can consist of a number of elements, including literary criticism, political manifestos, learned arguments, observations of daily life, recollections, and reflections of the author. Almost all modern essays are written in prose, but works in verse have been dubbed essays. Example, Alexander Pope's An Essay on Criticism and An Essay on Man. While brevity usually defines an essay, voluminous works like John Locke's An Essay Concerning Human Understanding and Thomas Malthus's An Essay on the Principle of Population are counterexamples. In the similar tone, an essay is also seen as an educational tool. In countries like the United States and the United Kingdom, essays have become a major part of a formal education in the form of free response questions. Secondary students in these countries are taught structured essay formats to improve their writing skills, and essays are often used by universities in these countries in selecting applicants. In both secondary and tertiary education, essays are used to judge the mastery and comprehension of material. Students are asked to explain, comment on, or assess a topic of study in the form of an essay. In some courses, university students must complete 1 or more essays over several weeks or months. In addition, in fields such as the humanities and social sciences, midterm and end-of-term examinations often require students to write a short essay in 2 or 3 hours. Now let's discuss the type of essays. classification and division essay. In these kinds of essays, the writer does the categorization of objects into a larger whole, while division is the breaking of a larger whole into smaller parts. For example, to write an essay on our Earth, writer will not only talk about the Earth as a whole, but the different objects which make the Earth as a complete whole. Compare and contrast essay. Compare and contrast essays are characterized by a basis for comparison, points of comparison and analogies. It is grouped by object chunking or by point sequential. Comparison highlights the similarities between two or more similar objects, while contrasting highlights the differences between two or more objects. When writing a compare or contrast essay, writers need to determine their purpose, consider their audience, consider the basis and points of comparison, consider their thesis statement, arrange and develop the comparison, and reach a conclusion. Compare and contrast is arranged empathetically. Descriptive essay. Descriptive writing is characterized by sensory details which appeal to the physical senses and details that appeal to a reader's emotional, physical or intellectual sensibilities. Determining the purpose, considering the audience, creating a dominant impression, using descriptive language, and organizing the description are the rhetorical choices to consider when using a description. A description is usually arranged spatially but can also be chronological or emphatic. The focus of a description is the scene. Description uses tools such as denotative language, connotative language, figurative language, metaphor and simile to arrive at a dominant impression. One university essay guide states that descriptive writing says what happened or what another author has discussed. It provides an account of the topic. Lyric essays are an important form of descriptive essays. Dialectic essay. In the dialectic form of essay, which is commonly used in philosophy, the writers make a thesis and argument, then object to their own argument with a counter-argument, but then counter the counter-argument with a final and novel argument. This form benefits from presenting a broader perspective while countering a possible flaw that some may present. Exemplification essay. An exemplification essay is characterized by a generalization and relevant, representative and believable examples, including anecdotes. Writers need to consider their subject, determine their purpose, consider their audience, decide on specific examples, and arrange all parts together when writing an exemplification essay. For example, Malthus's essay on the principle of population. Familiar essay. Familiar essays are one in which essayists speak as if to a single reader, writing about both themselves and about particular subjects. Anne Fadiman notes that the genre's heyday was the early 19th century and that its greatest exponent was Charles Lamb. She also suggests that while critical essays have more brain than heart and personal essays have more heart than brain, familiar essays have equal measures of both. History, thesis essay. A history essay, sometimes referred to as a thesis essay, describes an argument or claim about one or more historical events and supports that claim with evidence, arguments and references. The texts make it clear to the reader why the argument or claim is as such. Narrative essay. A narrative uses tools such as flashbacks, flash-forwards and transitions that often build to a climax. The focus of a narrative is the plot. When creating a narrative, authors must determine their purpose, consider their audience, establish their point of view, use dialogue and organize the narrative. A narrative is usually arranged chronologically. Argumentative essay. An argumentative essay is a critical piece of writing aimed at presenting objective analysis of the subject matter narrowed down to a single topic. The main idea of all the criticism is to provide an opinion either of positive or negative implication. As such, a critical essay requires research and analysis, strong internal logic and sharp structure. Each argument should be supported with sufficient evidence relevant to the point. Economic essay. An economic essay can start with a thesis or it can start with a theme. It can take a narrative course and a descriptive course. It can even become an argumentative essay if the author feels the need. After the introduction, the author has to do his or her best to expose the economic matter at hand, to analyze it, evaluate it, and draw a conclusion. If the essay takes more of a narrative form, then the author has to expose each aspect of the economic puzzle in a way that makes it clear and understandable for the reader. Reflective essay. A reflective essay is an analytical piece of writing in which the writer describes a real or imaginary scene, event, interaction, passing thought, memory, or form, adding a personal reflection on the meaning of a topic in the author's life. Thus, the focus is not merely descriptive. The writer doesn't just describe the situation, but revisits the scene with more detail and emotion to examine what went well or reveal a need for additional learning, and may relate what transpired to the rest of the author's life. Employment essay. Employment essays detailing experience in a certain occupational field are required when applying for some jobs, especially government jobs in the United States. Essays known as knowledge, skills, and executive core qualifications are required when applying to certain U.S. federal government positions. AKSA, or Knowledge, Skills, and Abilities, is a series of narrative statements that are required when applying to federal government job openings in the United States. KSAs are used along with the resumes to determine who the best applicants are when several candidates qualify for a job. The knowledge, skills, and abilities necessary for the successful performance of a position are contained on each job vacancy announcement. KSAs are brief and focused essays about one's career and educational background that presumably qualify one to perform the duties of the position being applied for. There are some non-literary types of essays as well, like film essay. A film essay or cinematic essay consists of the evolution of a theme or an idea rather than a plot, or the film literally being a cinematic accompaniment to a narrator reading an essay. From another perspective, a film essay could be defined as a documentary film with visual basis combined with a form of commentary that contains elements of self-portrait rather than autobiography, where the signature rather than the life story of the filmmaker is apparent. The cinematic essay often blends documentary, fiction, and experimental film, making use of tone and editing styles. This genre is not well defined, but might include propaganda, works of early Soviet parliamentarians like present-day filmmakers, including Chris Marker, Michael Moore, Roger and Me, 1989, Bowling for Columbine, 2002, and Fahrenheit 9/11, 2004, Errol Morris, The Thin Blue Line, 1988, Morgan Spurlock's Supersize Me, a film of epic proportions, and Agnes Varda. Jean-Luc Godard describes his recent work as film essays. Two filmmakers whose work was the antecedent to the cinematic essay include Georges Méliès and Bertolt Brecht. Méliès made a short film, The Coronation of Edward VII, 1902, about the 1902 coronation of King Edward VII, which mixes actual footage with shots of a recreation of the event. Brecht was a playwright who experimented with film and incorporated film projections into some of his plays. Orson Welles made an essay film in his own pioneering style, released in 1974, called F for Fake, which dealt specifically with art forger Elmer Day Horry and with the themes of deception, fakery, and authenticity in general. David Winks Gray's articles, The Essay Film in Action, states that the essay film became an identifiable form of filmmaking in the 1950s and 60s. He states that since that time, essay films have tended to be on the margins of the filmmaking world. Essay films have a peculiar searching, questioning tone between documentary and fiction, but without fitting comfortably into either genre. Gray notes that just like written essays, film essays tend to marry the personal voice of a guiding narrator, often the director, with a wide swath of other voices. The University of Wisconsin Cinematic website echoes some of Gary's comments. It calls a film essay an intimate and elusive genre that catches filmmakers in a pensive mood. ruminating on the margins between fiction and documentary in a manner that is refreshingly inventive, playful, and idiosyncratic. Photographic essays. A photographic essay strives to cover a topic with a linked series of photographs. Photo essays range from purely photographic works to photographs with captions or small notes to full text essays with a few or many accompanying photographs. Photo essays can be sequential in nature, intended to be viewed in a particular order, or they may consist of non-ordered photographs viewed all at once or in an order that the viewer chooses. All photo essays are collections of photographs, but not all collections of photographs are photo essays. Photo essays often address a certain issue or attempt to capture the character of places and events. After talking about various types of essays, now let's discuss essentials of a good essay. A good essay has the following characteristics. Unity. A good essay does not go astray from its theme. There can be arguments and counter-arguments, but the subject can always be kept in mind. A good essay admits nothing that is not relevant to it. Order. A good essay follows a line of thought and comes to a logical conclusion. It follows its plan step by step. Style. How you can say is more important than what you say. The style should be lively and individual. Language. The language can be literary but without slangs and colloquial terms. Individuality. An essay is a reflection of writer's personal views on a subject. The reader is delighted to read an essay that admits deviation from the stereotype approach. Now let's talk about steps to write a good essay. Clearly define your subject in your mind. Think over it until ideas about it occurs to you. Jot down the points on paper as they occur. Classify these points into groups under suitable headings. Reject those which are unsuitable or irrelevant. Arrange these headings in bare outline. Write the outline, examples, illustrations, arguments for and against. Now begin to write the essay, dividing it into paragraphs. Now let's discuss the structure of an essay. It is divided into three sections: introduction, main body of the essay, and conclusion. Introduction. A concise and crisp paragraph that introduces the topic or theme of the essay and sets the tune is called introduction. Main body of the essay. This part, the middle one, consists of nearly 2/3 of the length. That is, if the essay is to be written in 150 words, the body of the essay may consist of nearly 100 words. In this part, the topic or theme is illustrated elaborately from multiple or singular perspectives to reach to prove a point and also to a conclusion. Conclusion. In this section, the essay is wound up in a few short and interesting sentences. The last sentence must read like the natural conclusion of the whole discussion. The students should also select the type of the essay according to the given topic. For example, if they are asked to write an essay about If I Were Pen, it is an imaginative and autobiographical kind of an essay. So they should write it in a manner in which this kind of an essay should be written. Thus, following all the instructions cited above, the students can write a high quality essay. Another very important form of writing is report writing. It is essential for the students of English to know about the art of report writing. So let's discuss about the definition, importance and types of report writing in here. What is a report? A report is a document that presents information in an organized format for a specific audience and purpose. Although summaries of reports may be delivered orally, complete reports are almost always in the form of written documents. Kuiper and Klippinger define business reports as organized, objective presentations of observations, experiences or facts used in the decision-making process. Sharma and Mohan define a technical report as a written statement of the facts of a situation, project, process or test. How these facts were ascertained, their significance, the conclusions that have been drawn from them, and in some cases, the recommendations that are being made. Types of reports. Types of reports include memos, minutes, lab reports, book reports, progress reports, newspaper reports, justification reports, compliance reports, annual reports, and policies and procedures, etc. Importance of reports. Reports can fulfill 4 different and sometimes related functions. They can be used as controls to ensure that all departments are functioning properly, to give information, to provide an analysis, and to persuade others to act. Characteristics of effective reports. Effective reports are understood by the reader as the writer intended, and they influence the reader to act as the writer desired. The writer's objectives are most likely to be achieved if they correspond with the needs and objectives of the reader. An effective report is emphatic, accurate, complete, concise, and clear. Above all, an effective report presents information ethically. Warren Buffett gives his input on communicating with an audience while writing a report. One unoriginal but useful tip: write with a specific person in mind. When writing Berkshire Hathaway's annual report, I pretend that I am talking to my sisters. I have no trouble picturing them. Though highly intelligent, they are not experts in accounting or finance. They will understand plain English, but jargon may puzzle them. My goal is simply to give them the information I would wish them to supply me if our positions were reversed. To succeed, I don't need to be Shakespeare. I must, though, have a sincere desire to inform. Long reports and short reports. In the professional world, decision makers rely on 2 broad types of reports. Some reports focus primarily on information: what we are doing now, what we did last month, what our customer survey found, what went on at the department meeting. But beyond merely providing information, many reports also include analysis: what this information means for us, what courses of action should be considered, what we recommend, and why. For every long formal report, countless short informal reports lead to informed decisions on matters as diverse as the most comfortable office chairs to buy or the best recruit to hire for management training. Unlike long reports, most short reports require no extended planning, are quickly prepared, contain little or no background information, and have no front or end matter: title page, table of contents, glossary, etc. But despite their conciseness, short reports do provide the information and analysis that readers need. Now let's discuss how to write a report. To write a report, we have to identify the key facts of a particular matter and then to present them in the right order, simply and directly. Report writing is usually the reporting of an incident or event. The reporter is supposed to file only factual information without his own comments and feelings. Elaborate explanations and details are also left out. Each paragraph of the report should have a specific topic. The paragraphs are supposed to be linked in a logical order, if not linked closely. Some examples of reports: Antarctica. Antarctica is the coldest, windiest, highest and driest continent in the world. It is situated at and around the South Pole. Most of Antarctica is covered in very thick ice and snow. In fact, the ice covering Antarctica makes up nearly 70% of the world's fresh water. The average rainfall on Antarctica is lower than in many desert areas in the world. By that standard, it could be said that Antarctica is the largest desert in the world. For obvious reasons, Antarctica is mostly uninhabited. Apart from staff working at research stations, no land vertebrates live on Antarctica, but a handful of insects and worms have been found. Penguins, seabirds, seals, whales, and dolphins inhabit the waters and shores. Antarctica is like no other continent in the world. Its extremes make it one of the most spectacular and beautiful places on earth. Example 2. City rocked, New Delhi, 29th October, by staff reporter. There was a deafening bomb explosion in Sarojini Nagar market of New Delhi at 5 p.m. as large crowds of people were busy with their Diwali-related shopping. People ran helter-skelter for safety. Some people were thrown many meters away as a result of the impact of the explosion. Some shops and nearby vehicles went in flames. Within a few minutes, the police arrived on the scene in large numbers and were seen carrying the dead and the injured to the nearby hospitals. Thus, in this episode, we talked about the definitions, importance, types and rules of writing essays and reports. We hope that you found the episode worth watching and understood the concepts of writing essays and reports well. Till the next time, goodbye and take care.